Hey, I'm Jeff Quinton. I want to welcome you to episode 1 of Belts, Bumped, and Barbed Wire, a podcast presented by DMV Wrestling. Our guest this episode is Shawn Hardy of 1CW. 1CW has a show this weekend, Saturday, January 14th in Houston, Delaware at the Fire Hall. And now on with the show. Hi, this is Jeff Quinton with Belts, Bumps, and Barbed Wire. Our guest today is Shawn Hardy of 1CW Wrestling, and just want to talk to Shawn about his history as a wrestler, an owner, and a promoter, what's going on in the future with his company. We'll get right into the interview right now. So, Shawn, if you tell me how you got into wrestling to begin with as a wrestler back in the day.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here. And my wrestling career started when I was a young kid. I did a lot of scholastic wrestling. I actually started when I was in the third grade. Wrestled all the way up through high school, did very, very well. Wrestled in college as well. And then I broke my hip. So I had to take a little break. No more wrestling for a while. And I got into the business world. And as I broke into the business world, one of my contacts ended up being in the pro wrestling world. And I'll be honest with you, I was a fan of pro wrestling ever since the WWE days. I didn't grow up far from the Allentown Fairgrounds. We had the pleasure of seeing a lot of the tapings and things like that. So, you know, it's kind of Saturday mornings was wrestling. That's what it was. I had an older brother and a younger brother, and we kind of beat on each other a little bit. But anyhow, I met a gentleman who, like I said, was a pro wrestler, Jeff Rocker, who ended up being one of my trainers, along with Axel Rotten and Mark Harrow. Axel, big influence, big, tremendous, taught me so much psychology about the business. They were my original trainers. I traveled up and down the road with Jeff and Mark and Brian for a while. We did Connecticut, Massachusetts, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, basically the Northeast Circuit, 2003 to 2005. And as we did that in 2003 as well, we had ran into, I was working for a gentleman as well, a restaurant and bar by the name of Steve Grossman. And we actually somehow formed a wrestling company. It was kind of weird the way it happened. We were actually, like I said, because we were traveling and stuff, we weren't really sure. And it was just Jeff who came and said, hey, you know, with your business mind, and we had the venue, and Shawn, you got big experience as well and things like that. You know, let's talk about starting our own business. And like I said, I had some injuries. I had broken my hip earlier, and then I had some back issues. So it was time for me to step away and get into the promoting. And the three of us, Jeff Rocker, myself, and Steve Grossman, in late 2003, started the original Delaware Championship Wrestling. We ran that for quite a while. And then Jeff moved to Florida. Steve had some health issues and was getting out, and I kept it by myself for a little bit. Went from Delaware to Dynamite, thus the name change. And then I was in a car accident and had back issues again. And that's when I stepped away. A bunch of the fellas that were actually training with us wanted to buy that company. So I actually sold it out to them while I recovered. So that's how I got started. I had a couple stops after that in between, helping people start some companies. And then, of course, you know, 1CW being my baby. I did some stuff with some friends. We called it Delaware Championship Wrestling here out of Delaware. And we did a little bit of hardcore stuff. We brought in the Neck Row Butcher and Homeless Jimmy. The Briscoe brothers showed up. It was actually Mark versus Jay. You can look that up on YouTube. You want to talk about I'm not even going to say it. They beat the heck out of each other. I also started a business in West Virginia called Off the Chains Wrestling with one of my performers in talent, Crazy Shay. And we did that for a while. And I also started another company that was called Atlantic Pro Wrestling with Dino Biello. It's now called Atlantic All-Star Wrestling, as Dino kept that going up in Pennsylvania. And then 1CW, my baby. I started that myself in 2009 and currently going right now. I brought on a partner for the first time in 2018 in Sean Carlson, and things have really prospered, and I couldn't be happier. But the one thing I want to tell everybody, Jeff, that, you know, a lot of people might not know is every event that I've ever done, we donate the money back. There's always a cause, you know, and that's what drives me. You know, yeah, I was a performer. Yeah, I got into the promoting world and stuff, but being able to get into this community and dig into it has been a great thing. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell right there.
I know I was reading your bio that you sent over, and you said you had also trained with Axel Rotten, and that's a name that's familiar to a lot of people in the DMV and a lot of the readers of my site and the listeners of this podcast. So if you just talk about your relationship with Axel.
Yeah, what a mentor. Miss Brian dearly. I had the pleasure of traveling with him, learning from him, and training underneath him. Great psychology, mind for the business. Never given the credit for that. He was always known for his hardcore stuff, but man, technically and psychologically, one of the best in the business. Sorely missed. We all know about his demons and things like that, but hey, people are human. So I never fault anybody. I never walked a day in his shoes, so I wouldn't be able to sit here and say what he should have, could have, would have done. Do we miss him? Yeah, we miss him dearly. What a great guy. What an honor it was to learn from him. I hope I make him proud by carrying on and doing what we do. He actually was a 1CW tag team champion with Julio De Niro. So I had a pleasure, again, not only of training under him, and then having the pleasure of being the boss. So it was a pretty cool relationship. Yeah.
Talk to me about the wrestlers who influenced you when you were growing up as a kid watching WWE shows in Allentown Saturday mornings.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. My older brother was a Don Morocco fan, and I was a Superfly Jimmy Snuka fan. This was before all the hub and all that kind of stuff. But I just was enthralled by his athleticism. I love his charisma, the way he just got to the crowd and how he just, he was a star. Um, and then, of course, Bruno Sammartino. I mean, a lot of people never ever give Bruno the credit that he deserves. But I think Bruno had a great influence because I remember watching Bruno with my grandmother, and that's kind of how I got hooked on those Saturday mornings leading into things. So I can't ever forget that. But honestly, I was a big NWA guy. I really dug the NWA. I got into Dusty Rhodes. I thought he was a super way ahead of the business, a super mind, and what an outstanding talent. And what we all know today is how many lives that he touched, not only with his children, but people along the way as he trained and worked with. And yeah, I really missed those NWA days. They were great.
Yeah, I had a similar background to you, watching NWA, specifically Mid Atlantic, on Saturday afternoons with my grandfather growing up as a kid. So really big
Great
Magnum.
stuff.
Yeah, I was a really big Magnum TA fan. And
yeah.
now that you're in the business, who do you see today that's wrestling at any level or any promotion that you think is doing it right?
I tell you, there's a lot of young talent out there that everybody likes to keep their eye on and say, hey, who's the next rising superstar? But one of the things I look at right now is, some of these guys that have maybe resurrected their careers, the Matt Cardonas, the Big Cass, some of these guys who have just, bounced back from a little bit of adversity or some major adversity, and really come back. I think everybody had Cardona written off, everybody but himself. And then he came back and hit that indie scene, between the NWA and GCW and some of the stuff that he's done. And boy, everybody's begging for him. So when I look at things like that, I look at people who are trendsetters, who's really trying to change this industry. And he did that back when he was calling himself the internet champion and things like that. So I think, if you're looking at somebody who's really, and he's still young, could be really something in the future, and maybe not on a major roster right now. I got to say Matt Cardona. Locally, there are so many people. Honestly, if I was to mention one or two names, I'd be leaving people out. But I can tell you there's a guy talented that was a 1CW champion, and he is from the DMV area, and that's Mr. Grimm, the hitman for hire. How he's not signed somewhere, I'm really not sure. But what an athlete. He has size, he has speed, he has strength. He's one mean dude. I love what the NWA is doing right now, too, as well.
Yeah, I do too. I've been watching it some lately, more back before COVID, but then they've just announced yesterday they're taking everything off Fight and putting it all back on YouTube.
Nice.
So
I kind of like that free stuff.
It works for me. I know that probably hurt them a lot during COVID, that and some of the personnel changes and having people getting hired away or getting fired during COVID. So that had a lot to do with them going downhill afterwards. So
Yeah, it was tough. I tell you, COVID was a tough battle. 1CW, we were very fortunate. We kind of took advantage of where we could run and how we could run. Delaware was shut down during the COVID pandemic, but Pennsylvania still had some openings, and it all went, by limited number of crowds. So what we did was just do multiple shows. If we could only put 30 to 50 people in the building because of the way they wanted it spaced, we would do 3 different events and still bring in 150 people to get to see it during that day. So thinking outside the box for everybody to survive during that pandemic has been tough. But what it did teach us, I can tell you, moving forward is stay true to your model and stay true to your product, and things always work out.
okay, so another question I would have is, where do you see the business going in 5 years and 10 years, considering what's going on now with all of the streaming services and all of the things online and all of the people going to New Japan or all the independent promotions and having independent schedules and working with AEW and everybody else versus what had become the WWE model after they put WCW out of business?
I'll be honest with you, I'm excited. I think this is the best model for the talent. And what's best for the talent always correlates to what's best for the fans, because then they put on a better performance. Let's face it, when you're happy going to work, you put on a happy job. When you're not happy going to work, you're not going to put on a great job. And it shows. That's whether you're a wrestler or if you're a chef or whatever it is. I'm a firm believer of that. I think this hidden door, or going through the, whatever they want to call that, and everybody opening it up, whether it's New Japan having this working relationship, with AEW or WWE, and everybody trying to figure it out. I think, what I do like is that the doors never close for anybody to go anywhere. And that's what it should be. I see people taking a little bit more of control of their narrative. Not to steal a quote from, anybody EC3 or, anything like that. But, that's where the industry's at. And I think it's a great, great thing. Our product is actually on streaming. We're on Roku and we're on some other streaming services. And I think it's great that it allows fans all over the world to be able to recognize and see 1CW, which then allows us and our talent to sell product. So it's a good thing. Do I see it ever going back to a Monday Night Wars? I think somehow the fans kind of in their heart really like to see people battle things out. But best for the business, I think it's best the way the model's going right now, and people going to New Japan and going to AEW and going to GCW and the Indies and looking at WWE and saying, hey, I can be successful over here and then still come back if I want to. Scheduling and family things are very important, and I'm glad it's being recognized now. And being that independent contractor sometimes has great perks. So I think it's only a great thing for the business. I really do.
It's really similar. I thought of it lately. It's really similar to a territory situation where the system used to be, except you control your own schedule and it's not the grueling schedule of having 6 shows a week and having to do shows every night and drive from all the different cities and get exhausted and getting worn out and getting hurt.
Absolutely. I agree.
And I know I've seen some people who are taking advantage of it and working almost every weekend in a different location lately. So I've even said something to a wrestler after a show recently that every time I look, he's working somewhere else every weekend. So, I mean, you have that opportunity if you're young and don't have a family to make as much money as possible, depending on what you're getting paid, but what your expenses are. But you it's just a situation where you have a choice instead of being filtered into a system where you're stuck doing what they tell you to do and only what they tell you to do. And you have no control of the process or input into it if you don't like it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. And as a promoter, I try to help get as many people that come to me, to reach out to other promoters for them to try to put in a good word or whatever. But I see local talents like Brandon Scotts and these type of people that let's face it, they could be wrestling 5 nights a week easily. They're that talented. They're in demand, and they understand how this works. And if they really want to do it, they can do it. When we talk about some local DMV guys that are, really superstars, there's a guy right there. no doubt.
Yeah, I've seen him a few places online besides in person, and another ones that I've seen a lot of is Miles Hawkins lately.
Yeah, I like Miles.
And then Chris Bay, even he didn't get the attention that Leo Rush did with
Hmm.
going to New Japan to the Super Junior Tag League. But Chris Bay was involved in that too, and he's from Alexandria, Virginia, so he's from the area, and he just is does a lot of work in a lot of different places, and I've been impressed with what I've seen of him.
Yeah, I love to see it. I love to see these local guys live it out. And let's face it, the one thing that we know is, there's nothing easy about it. So to make it to that level, that takes dedication, and that's what makes them rise to the top. So I'm happy for them.
Okay, moving on to another topic. Let's talk about what's going on in 1CW right now, and with your event, and talk about some of the big personalities, and some of the feuds, and some of the things that are going on in your company.
Absolutely. We just had a lot going on. Let's say December was a big month, end of the year. Led us to our next event, which is January the 14th, our first event of 2023. We're bringing in Devon Dudley's boys. They're considered Dudley 2.0. They're a great up and coming tag team out of Atlanta, Georgia, teaming and training out of the Nightmare Factory down there with Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall and all those guys. And they're coming in to challenge our newly crowned tag team champions, the Dynasty, the Tar Brothers, Dustin and Chris Tar. Looking forward to that matchup. Looking forward to working with the Dudley boys here, the 2.0 version. Seem like really nice fellas, and looking forward to having them in Delaware. Some other things going on in 1CW is we got a new champion, Ty Awesome, fresh off. He did a little bit of stuff on SmackDown recently. He defeated Miles Millennium. Little bit of controversy there with a gentleman named Stevie Ray Styles. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that character or not. But he seems to be in the middle of that issue. Anyhow, there's a new champion there. And then, of course, there's Ranch Hand Sean Carlson, the Bulletproof champion. And he has really been firing up the crowd of Houston, getting everybody behind him, and seems to be one of the rising stars on the East Coast. I see him getting booked not only in 1CW, I see him up in Pennsylvania. I see him getting lots of bookings up in New Jersey and New York. So super excited for that young talent and what he's doing. So that's pretty much what's going on. And we have a partnership on the 14th with our sister federation. We are a brother sister federation. We do 1CW Pro Wrestling, and we also do CCW Capital Championship Wrestling. And man, they got some fire coming with them, bringing some really good matchups. I just got the lineup today. And looking forward to that as well. So not only, when you come to a 1CW event, you get to see the 1CW matches, you get that extra bonus. It's two shows for the price of one. It's a great bang for your buck. And if you like ladies wrestling, the talent at CCW is undeniably top notch. So January 14th is going to be a banging event, no doubt.
To sum it up for the fans, could you tell us about the details of that event and how to get tickets and where it is, and all the details for when it is?
Absolutely, man. I'm a promoter. I know how to do that. I just sometimes I don't like to overstep and be rude like that. But yeah, absolutely. We are located in Houston, Delaware. Showtime is 6 o'clock sharp. Doors are open at 5. Tickets you can purchase at 1CW Pro Wrestling on Facebook. You can reach out to Shawn Hardy on Facebook. Rows 1 and 2 are already sold out, so we're seating row 3 and back. Our last couple of events have been standing room only. We do fit 500 in that building. So we're looking forward to another great event. We are on Instagram and Twitter and all of those. Facebook seems to be the easiest one for a lot of people, but yeah, we're on YouTube as well. You can check out our matches on YouTube, get caught up on all the angles, all the talent. See some of the people that have come through the doors of 1CW in 2022. So yeah, looking for a great year. We got a lot of big stuff planned.
What is the most embarrassing situation you've had as a wrestler?
Well, most embarrassing situation. Probably on a road trip. I got locked out of my hotel room with nothing but a towel. And that towel didn't last very long. The boys seemed to, want to pull that off of me very quickly and then carry me down to the lobby and leave me in the lobby. And my room was on the 4th floor. Uh, um, it was a packed hotel. There happened to be a couple kids and family there, so it was a lot of explaining to do. Um, so yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, prank pranks all the time. You know, uh, road trips were great. I do miss that. I get to do some with some of the guys now. I do travel with some of the fellas now. I do a little bit of managing on and off. Step in and help wherever's needed. And I advise for a couple of other federations, so I do travel with my guys as they work there and get a chance to do it. But I don't prank them quite like that. Um, you, only because it was families there. If it had been just guys that, hey man, I'm good with it. Even girls, I'm all right. But there was families, so that was a little bit of explaining to do. But I've been known to order my dinner on someone's tab before, and kind of leave the establishment before they get the bill. So road trips with me can be a lot of fun or pretty expensive.
Okay, let's go to 5 questions now, just personal questions.
Yes, sir.
Favorite food?
My favorite food, I love lasagna.
Okay. Your favorite libation?
uh I drink a drink that's called Monaco. It's a mixture of Red Bull and vodka. Cheers up.
Okay, that's good. And what is your favorite vacation spot?
To be honest with you, Las Vegas.
Okay, that's a good one. And your favorite band or musician?
Um, Stevie Ray Vaughan, which is where I got my character name, Stevie Ray Styles.
Yeah, I remember I was a kid in high school working on a project when we found out the day he died in that crash.
Very sad. It was very, very sad. Yeah, I remember that day.
And one last one, what did you want to be when you grew up when you were a kid?
To be honest with you, um, I just wanted to be a good husband, a good father, and a good example. I really didn't have great aspirations of being a big pro wrestler, or a promoter, or a fireman, or anything like that. I did go to college. As I started to go through school, I wanted to get into psychology, and I did, and reach out to help people, and that's kind of that's me. I've always been a guy to try to help somebody. So I don't know. A lot of people say, oh, when I was younger, I want to be a pro football player or anything. I really never did. I just wanted to be better than my dad ever was. You know, I don't know. That was kind of me.
Thanks for joining us this week on Belts, Bumps, and Barbed Wire. And please be sure to continue to visit DMV Wrestling's website. And we'll have a new episode of the podcast very soon. Our credits are Scott English as our executive producer. You can become an executive producer as well by an easy donation to our website. Just contact us for more details. And our production assistant is Josie Quinton. Thanks again for joining us on Belts, Bumps, and Barbed Wire, and we'll talk to you again soon.